So today, we've got an amazing special place to share with you. We're going to talk about bandits, stagecoaches, the Nisenan Indians, the gold rush. It all comes together in this special place on the top of Orangevale. But there is so much history here that we want to share with you today. So come along with us as we take a look at some of these special spots. So before we get too much further along on our trek today, I wanted to do a call out for our sponsor for today's video, and that's Kitchen Mart. They've been a great supporter of the Orangevale History Museum and our channel. It's amazing what they did with the kitchen in the museum, and we really appreciate what they've done for us today on this video. So right now we are close to the old reservoir. There was a gold rush reservoir that had been put up. There was a dam that got put in place, and the remnants of that are still here, and you can see it in the background with the flowers. Those are all introduced, but they are pretty. But this is just a little bit of the remainders of the time in the gold rush that would have been for folks doing agriculture in this area, mining. They would have used this water to be able to provide that, which of course is fed by Linda Creek. So it's a really neat piece of this special place, but we'll continue as we move along the trail. So what we have here, as you can see, the geology of this area is a mix of grassland. We've got sort of riparian forest, and then we have these rock outcroppings. These are granite, and there was, in fact, granite quarries in the area around here back in the day. But what we'll see is certain areas, you'll have these granite outcroppings shooting up out of the ground. And when we get a little bit further along the trail, you're gonna see how dramatic that actually gets to be in the corral itself. So let's go take a look. The natural wonder of this place is amazing. We've got turkey vultures flying overhead. I've seen some bluebirds going back between trees, acorn woodpeckers. The natural history has been preserved quite a bit. The wildflowers this time of year is amazing to see. We're in mid-April. This is like the perfect time to visit, and I can't just imagine what it would have been like 100 years ago to be wandering this place. But in fact, it's not too far from what it was 100 years ago. So we'll continue to wander through and see the amazing stuff to see. Sacramento Regional Parks owns this property now, and they've owned it since the mid-70s. There was a consultant who came in and did a recommendation on how to create public access for this. I mean, currently it's forbidden. You cannot come in here without special permission from the regional parks and a docent because of the sensitive nature of the property. But this field over here to the southeast or southwest actually of the property was where they were looking to plan access and have parking and then have the trails emanate out into the Stone Corral. But that was in 2003 when that report came out. It's been, of course, 20 plus years. We're not sure if that will happen or if that's changed in the last 20 years, but we're looking to work with regional parks and see how we can get public access to this, at least at some level, and be able to share the amazing history of this area. Now here's the water source for this area in the regional park called Stone Corral. This is called Linda Creek. It's typically a year-round creek. It's running pretty nicely right now in mid-April, but this would have been an important water source for the Nisenan tribal groups that lived here in their community. And for the gold rush, I'm sure there was a few gold miners that did some panning here just to see if there was anything they could pick up. The other part of this area here is you had a stagecoach line during the gold rush that ran from the old Auburn Road, or it was Auburn Road at the time. It came through right through this area here and went off to Folsom back during the stagecoach times of the gold rush. So that was made it for kind of a thoroughfare back at least during that time. But yeah, Linda Creek is an important source of water. This water continues on its way, goes to the Maidu Cultural Center over in Roseville. So this flows from east to west. It flows into Roseville. And so there's a large Nisenan Maidu community that was in that area as well that used the same water source. So we'll cross it and we'll check out where the community lived. This is amazing, and you can see how deep these mortar holes are that the women, the Nisenan women, would be crushing the acorns into a mush and creating this food they used all year round. It's amazing how deep these are. They're probably, and it's full of soot or debris and stuff, so most likely this is a foot deep, which tells you how long these women were sitting here and how many years they used these mortars. Typically, they would have their name to the mortar. This would be their hole. They would take their mortar and pestle and they would work it. The other women would be sitting here as well, processing the acorns into mush. They would take the water from Linda Creek. They would get hot coals going, get these rocks heated up, and they had these watertight baskets that they would put the mush in. They would put water in it, and they would rinse out the tannins so that it would be palatable. This food is something they could put in a basket on their back and travel when they were moving around, and they could have a meal very quickly by taking some of that mush and then preparing a quick meal for the family as they were traveling around and foraging in this area. But this is one of the amazing sights here. What you have to realize, right here, we are in the village. This is the village that was in this area. There's archaeological evidence. Sac State, or CSU Sacramento, Sierra College had archaeological digs in this area. And there are a number of village huts. So what the Nisenan would do is they would dig a hole round. It would be fairly deep, and it helped to keep the temperature cooler. And so you'd have in this area these huts for living, for different things, the medicine man. You would also have, for a main village, you would have what's called a roundhouse. And the roundhouse is where they would have their dances, their meetings, and this would have been most likely in this area here, close to the creek, close to the food processing, and close to security, right? We are at the corral almost, and you'll be able to see these rock outcroppings and how secure they would be for the folks living in this community. The flowers, the wildflowers this time of year, the clover, the Nisenan loved clover, eating the clover that is, had a lemony flavor. In fact, for Sutter, John Sutter, he wasn't by all means a nice guy to his Native American workers, but there is a story about him releasing them out of Sutter's Fort out during the clover time in the spring, and his Nisenan workers would go out into the fields and harvest this clover and just eat it, really enjoying the flavor of it. In fact, some of the immigrants were like, wow, this must be good. So they collected some as well and made their own kind of meal out of it. So it's really neat to see how the Native Americans knew how to use the land, how to appreciate the land and what came out of it to preserve themselves without any major agricultural endeavors, as it were, in California. They lived off the land, and they did a good job of it. The unique beauty of this area is just marvelous, and so glad that, the person who got this saved is by a woman by the name of Maxine Cornwell. She actually lived right over here behind us in one of the properties that was adjacent to this area. And we have her book in our museum gift shop, and it's How I Saved the Stone Corral. You'll have to come take a look, read this book. It's an amazing story of how one person can make a huge difference. This was on the chopping block as a development by the Moss Corporation. And she was able to rally the troops, get all these people involved, and save this amazing piece of property here in Orangevale. So neat to hear that story as well. If you look on Google Earth, you'll see these rock formations, these granite outcroppings, and they run from like a northeast, excuse me, to southwest direction. And there's a row of them. We have like I believe there's like 3 or 4 of them. The couple of middle ones are the largest and tallest ones. And what's amazing about this, and the name the corral came from, was originally the cattle rustlers would steal cattle from John Sutter down in the valley, and this was the right distance to run them up the hill and stop here. And they would use this rock formation because on 2 sides they have it blocked. They put large boulders on the end of them. They're like a channel. So they blocked the one end with rocks, and then they guarded the other end and kept the cattle hidden in between these 2 rock formations. And then from here, they'd run them the rest of the way up into the mountains where they would slaughter them and take what they wanted from them. So that's where the corral name came from originally. The very first maps show Stone Corral in 1860. There's 2 maps that have that name on a map, and that's where that moniker came from. It was the corral for folks stealing cattle. Yeah, pretty crazy. The way the rocks have jutted out of the ground, their angles, it's almost like they're pancakes. Look at that pancaking in there. And then of course these trees are getting the roots into those crevices and making those even wider. It's a pretty incredible rock formation, very unique for the Orangevale area, and we're so glad it's here and it's safe. You can see how narrow this canyon gets. You've got the rocks right over here. You got rocks right in here behind the trees. Very easy to keep the cattle in and secure them and keep them hidden from the sheriff who's coming by looking for you, wondering where you took all those cattle. The other very cool thing with the gold rush was you had the bandits, the banditos, people like Tom Bell and his gang. They worked the Folsom Auburn Road, which was just east of us here. They also worked the Auburn Road, which is west of us. So this was a perfect location to be able to hide out in what they called Robber's Roost at the time. They could get on top of these rocks and they could see for miles because this is the highest point in the area. You could see if the sheriff was coming, and you could also hide behind these rocks and be able to shoot out with the sheriff and the posse if they tried to come up into your canyon. So this was a really good place for them to hide out in between their heists with the gold rush, the stagecoaches, and the wagon supplies that were going to the mining camps up in the foothills. Now what I want to say here is that around 1900, the family that owned this was the Landis family. They were big into history. You'll have to check out one of our videos. It was Anthony Landis and the Missing Artifacts. It's on our YouTube channel. Check it out, like and subscribe. But check it out, because they own this property, and being history buffs, they were interviewed quite a few times after the fact. In 47 is a newspaper article where Anthony's talking about the rock wall they used to secure the end of the channel, the bandits that came here, the artifacts they'd found from they found old guns hidden in slots in these rocks over the decades. So I don't know if there's any more of those here, but those are of course in a secure regional park now, which is forbidden from the public to be in at the moment. So hopefully those will continue to hide if there's any more of them nestled in these rocks. But if these rocks could talk, there would be a lot of amazing stories that we don't even know about. So we'll continue checking it out today. It's amazing to see the forces of nature working either together or against each other. This tree right here is shooting out of a crack in this granite boulder. It's just incredible to see that the roots of these living things can work their way into enough of a foothold to then grow up, get enough nourishment and water to survive on a piece of granite. That is just mind-blowing to see some of the things in this really unique ecosystem here at the Stone Corral. I was mentioning before how the Nisenan villages were along Linda Creek, and one of those was, of course, in Roseville at the Maidu Cultural Center. When you look at the old maps that are in the anthropology books, there's a couple of maps that denote major villages in the California and the foothills. And one of those dots is close to here. We'd like to take credit for it, but in fact, it's most likely the Maidu dot. And that village, there's a couple of different names that I've seen in the documentation, but one of those names is Pizzakut. That was given to that major village that was in one of the maps from the anthropologists that were studying the Nisenan tribes and where they were and trying to save as much as they could about that history of the Native Americans. And that was back in the late 1800s that they were trying to collect that information before it was all lost. So we're at the end of the Stone Corral. The Placer County line is above us. This entire property is surrounded by private residences, and so there's no actual public access to this property. You can see one of the houses off on the distance there. They are renting this property out for grazing, which keeps the weeds down and more fire control, as it were. It also fertilizes, right? We have the horses fertilizing the area. But this is the north end of the rock formations, and they're running again from a northeast to southwest kind of striation, almost like the back of a stegosaurus, if you can look at them. And we're looking at the backs of the stegosauruses all lined up in rows, and then there's channels in between each of those. It's a pretty incredible rock formation, very unique, and we're so glad to have it here. We've been able to cover quite a bit of the amazing history of the Stone Corral today. You've seen a little bit of it, got a taste of it, but this is really something you want to experience in person. We have, the only way right now to get access to this is either work for regional parks, or they have allowed us on an annual basis to have the Orangevale History Project members come and do a special tour, and that's what we're doing today. So if you ever want to see this and you're in the area, make sure you join the Orangevale History Project. When you become a member, you'll get notified of when our next tour is of the Stone Corral, and you too can be able to enjoy the amazing nature we have here and really get close to that rich history that we've seen today. With that, I'm going to wrap it up. It's Mark Ehring with On the Trail in Orangevale. If you like this video, a like and subscribe is great. What's even better, if you want to really support us, the mission of this organization, and keeping these episodes coming out, is to click down below, join us, become a member, and support the organization. We're all volunteer. We're doing this because we love history, love the community. You don't actually have to live in Orangevale to be part of this, right? All this history interweaves. So check it out, join us. We'd love to see you support what we're doing here today.